Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Women Driven, a podcast about women in automotive and how they got to where they are today, looking at their past to drive women further in the future. So, I'm your host, Sarah Davis. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. You can also find me with Beauty Mama Bear on Instagram. If you like my show, you should check out the Long MacArthur channel, where we have all things sports, news, information, you name it, we talk about it there. We do a live podcast every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You should also check the Ford Video Guy channel. That's where Tim talks all about his vehicles and what he's currently doing for them. You should check out Ragnar. He is working on his Broncos. So that one is a great channel if you have information on how you can do things to your Bronco. There's also Johnny's Car Care Reviews. So if you like Bob MacArthur and need that information about them, go check out their channel as well. And then there is All Train Nation and so many more. So if you want to find more videos like mine, go down to our description. You'll find it there. So let's get going.
All right, our guest this week is Mead. So, what do you do?
Good morning, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I am a full-time automotive journalist. I started my career in 1988, which sounds like '06 to some people when I say it. And I started at Four Wheeler magazine on the first team that included women as test drivers. At the time I began the career, it was part-time as I was still enjoying bringing up my daughter. But over time, I did more and more work in the field, which we can talk about, specialized a bit in four-wheel drive. And now I think the math is 37 years later, I'm still a full-time automotive journalist, and I travel the world doing a wide array of things. I'm very fortunate.
Yeah. So, you also race, is that correct?
I do. I like to make the distinction that I'm not a full-time professional racer, but I have raced pretty much all the world's biggest and most significant off-road races. My first was in 1995 at the Baja 1000, which I've done 6 times. I've also done another event in Baja, Mexico called the Mexican 1000, and it was the original Baja 1000 race. And I've done that, and as part of doing that with my original trainer, Rod Hall, I helped make a movie about him that is called One More Win. I'd love to see you have Amy Lerner on your show because she is a bit of a racer also, and she made that movie. But we were twice with a film team in Baja, Mexico, and on the Mexican 1000. I've also done the women's rally that spawned the Rebel Rally in the US. The original one, and still going, was in Morocco, or is in Morocco, and it's called the Gazelle Rally. I did that. And the world and many other small off-road races and four-wheel drive expeditions, but the biggest off-road race in the world is the Dakar Rally. And I did that in 2000. That's a fun story I could tell later or soon. And I also did it as a co-driver, or what's called, because it's put on by a French organization, you're called a copilote. And then I did it in 2011 as the driver of record. And I had the really good fortune with my teammate, Darren Skilton, of being the only team that finished in our class. We were in a Ford Raptor, and we both made history. The history books give me the credit. If you're the driver of record, you get the credit. So I was the first woman and first person from the North American continent to win that 6,000 mile long race that is very grueling. Sometimes people lose their lives in it. And it remains one of the highlights of my life. So now I've been to the Dakar 8 times. I was just there this year covering the Polaris side-by-side team for Polaris. And I've also been a team media manager for Amy Lerner and her friend Sarah from Barcelona as they championed a 911 Porsche that was rear drive and manual transmission in what is called the classics class, which is for vintage vehicles. So done a lot of racing. There was a point where I thought about becoming a full-time off-road racer and looked into that a bit, even with the help of Mitsubishi. And I realized that people who race get to race, but there's also, especially if you're a team manager, a lot of time behind the scenes and throughout the year working on sponsors and aspects of it that don't involve racing. So sometimes, some years, I've considered that it's been great just to do it the way that I do.
Yeah. So have you joined in on Rebel?
I was a team manager for Amy Lerner and Shelby Hall, both of whom are big namesakes in our automotive field. The first year that they did it, and that was 10 years ago. This is the 10th anniversary. I have not done the Rebel. I've been asked to do it many times each year. Increasingly, I'm pressured. People say, I'll be your navigator. I'll do anything. I want you to be there. I want you to be on this 10th anniversary edition. The truth is, I consider myself a very experienced off-road racer. I've been on not only in races, but extreme expeditions all over the world. But I am not talented in the time, speed, distance kind of driving. I like to go fast when I can and go slow when I have to. And I did the training for the Gazelle Rally in Morocco with a woman who'd never been off-road. We made a great team, but we were lost in Morocco for the first 8 of 9 days. Lost on the Algeria border, lost, sleeping in the bushes in our van. So I realized there are a lot of things that I've been able to develop some skill in, and I realized I don't have to do everything. And so far, I've turned down Rebel. It's an incredible rally.
Yeah.
And gives women, as you know, the opportunity to drive sometimes the vehicle that really literally is in their driveway or could be in their driveway. The camaraderie that Emily Miller, who's a good friend, she has inspired, guides the rally, and the skills that women get from doing it are just incredible. And I think you should do it.
I want to. I'm from Kansas, so we have very little off-road capability to practice here.
Yeah.
So if I do it, I want to do navigation, and I'm working my way up. But right now I have my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old, and they're a little bit young to leave for that long.
Yeah, I understand. Put it on your sites. And one of the things I've been a mentor at times, or given a lot of advice to women who've done the Rebel and also are new at competing or racing. It's really important that if you do it as a navigator, you also practice driving the vehicle, because you never know, someone can torque a wrist or wake up in the morning with a flu that's your driver and they can't drive. Plus, it's fun. It's fun to switch roles for a day. So, yeah,
Yes,
great.
yes. So you've been in automotive for quite a while. Did you start out in automotive, or did you start in regular journalism? How did you get your start?
That's a good question, because a few people I know have been in the journalism business, news or sports, and then gone on to cover automobiles and find they love covering automobiles, and that's what happened to me, because it's a lot different from news. But I became a small town news photographer, and I enjoyed the aspect of shooting film, both feature photography as well as shooting, being called to news events. And I I enjoyed learning about the business. And I went on, my first roll of film had, I think, 3 shots go to the Associated Press, and I made $25 for those shots. I think it was 5 or 10 for the others back in the day. But what's funny is that I was so excited, but I would struggle to write the captions, which of course in the news business are called cut lines. I would type them out on a typewriter. That's how long ago this was. And I would struggle, literally almost pulling my hair out, to write a caption. And the first time someone said, "You just told a great story about your photo essay. I want you to write the story." And I said, "Oh, I don't know how to write." And now I've written, I can easily say, 1,000 articles, reviews, 3 automotive books. 2 of them I updated, so 5 editions in total. And I basically write for a living. But I will say just quickly that the news business and traditional journalism at some really good papers in New England gave me the skill set, the passion for learning journalism. But I also, I got called to car accidents, truck crashes off the side of the mountains here with big fires going on. Once an airplane crash that had caught on fire for a small airplane from the airport that I actually did my flight training in. I'll tell you about that. But I realized my daughter was youngish at the time, and I would take her when I was on call. I had to take her out sometimes to things and say, "You have to sit in the car or sit in your car seat, and I'll be right back. The police are here. I'm going to be right there." And I thought, not how I want to really be spending my time. And in a serendipitous way, a man named Peter McGillivray, who I helped in the news business early on, and when he was 17, he went on to go to college, met his soon-to-be wife after college, Diane McGillivray, and he moved to California, couldn't get a job in news, and went to work at Four Wheeler magazine. That's the beginning of how things changed for me. And when he told me he was at Four Wheeler, I thought, Four Wheeler? What is Four Wheeler? And he literally said, "Go to the guns and ammo section and find the magazine." And it went on to become the world's leading four-wheel drive magazine. I joined them that year when they were looking for women. I learned so much, and I learned from the best of the best from the start. So that really helped me. And it also, many of those guys that I began my work with are still in the business, and they remain colleagues, but it changed my life.
Yeah. So you didn't take any courses or anything like that to get started?
When I was getting my degree in psychology and sociology, I went to 2 junior colleges because of many circumstances. I was putting my then husband through dental school, and was it was just how it worked out for me to go part-time and still be earning some money. And then when I decided to go to school full-time, I went to Goddard College. I had an associate's degree then, and at that time I thought I'd get a job in mental health, which I did. But I developed an interest in photography, and I knew that I had an eye for shooting images. I just knew it. But more than that, it brought me pleasure. And that was what was so compelling when I started doing it. Was I just really enjoyed it. And so for a period of time, I was a photographer. I even won some awards for my photography, added the journalism, then the automotive journalism. And I have a crazy story about being sick when I was 35 and realizing that I'd never seen the world and being told that I might not survive the illness. And I just dreamed and prayed that I would see my daughter graduate from high school and that I would see the world before I died. And here I am.
Yeah. So you didn't have many family members in automotive, or you probably didn't at all.
Yes, and I realized I kind of jumped ship when you asked me the question. I really didn't have any formal training in journalism, but I did do a 6-month photography study when I was at Goddard College. But it's first more of a psychological perspective on photography. But as I had to learn how to develop and print and mount my work and present it in a show as part of what was required of me to get credits for that study.
Okay.
So that was actually a good sort of backbone, if you will. And as for automotive, no, my dad was a Navy pilot and did a few other things. And this is crazy. I always forget this. For a very short period of time, he worked in a dealership toward the end of his life. And but I didn't care about cars. I loved old cars that I would find on my grandmother's farm, and my cousins and my brother and I would sit in them, and I loved the smell of the motor oil, and I loved the smell of the old parts. But it was in my teens that my brother and he got a small motorcycle and we shared it. And I'd always ridden a bicycle too fast, like down hills, and loved adventure and loved to be kind of a tomboy, which is what we called it then. And so, but it was years and even some years into my career before I really began to understand automobiles. I loved where they took me. I've been asked to write a book, and the title will be Driving for My Life, Inner and Outer Journeys. Vehicles, it's metaphoric and real, that vehicles have taken me all over the world, helped me learn so many skills, meet so many people. And the thrill has been all the automobiles and all the testing of them. And now I would say one area that I would give myself some high marks in is in four-wheel drive and understanding the SUV and truck market in particular. I test everything in the market, but having been on extreme expeditions around the world, my skill set is in four-wheel drive, both racing and doing other kinds of expeditions, say across Australia or in Africa. That's where I've learned so much. And what I've had to learn is that if you're going to do desert races, especially the long ones, you also have to know a bit about your vehicle and know, oh, what's that smell? Or, oh, what's that sound? Let's see, the oil light has gone on, and what do we need to stop and do? Do we need to let the vehicle cool down, the engine cool down? Do we need to change or blow out the filter because we're driving through dust? And that's what has created an overheating issue. So I've learned a lot about vehicles, but I'm not, it's not my strong suit.
Yep. So knowing about Rebel Rally and hearing some of the stories, I'm like, okay, I need to know how to fix things. Or I need to know how to look at something and go, that's not right. That's what's wrong. So my vehicle actually I have a 2017 C-Max, started making a sound, and I went to one of our techs here at the dealership, and I was like, hey, this is making a sound, and I want to work on it myself. I
Good.
want to know why it's making this sound. Can you just watch to make sure I don't do something I shouldn't? And he's like, yes, absolutely. So I looked at it and I figured out it was the fan belt, and we got it figured out and um, done and everything. So I was just like, all right, that's what I thought it was. Glad I know now.
Congratulations. And I think that that is one of the most important ways to learn. You can certainly do a mechanics class or go out into the shop your dealership has a repair shop and hang out and watch things happening. But I think it's so important to also kind of learn things on the run, and you'll always know what the sound of a fan belt that's ready to break, or your vehicle is in trouble in some way. And also the feel of it. When, when all of a sudden your vehicle is rocking side to side as you're going down the road, do you have a U joint that's not working properly and on the verge of maybe breaking? Do you need to put more air in your tires?
Yeah.
And I discovered when I was in Florida on a Jeep Jamboree 4-wheel drive trip, and maybe, I don't know, not the deepest mud. The deepest mud I've ever seen was in Borneo, but this mud in Florida, I was making fun of the fact that we were going four-wheeling and flat as a pancake Florida. But this area that we went to with alligators and swamp, we had so much mud. And at the end of the day, when I went to drive my Jeep vehicle down the road, I thought I had a flat tire, and I got out 3 times because when I would hit 40 or 50 miles an hour, it would start vibrating. And there was so much mud inside the wheel well, and compensating for that was what the problem was. So, yeah.
I've seen, we were in Colorado and one of the guys in his Bronco went through a deep mud puddle, came out, and they were like, something's wrong. And luckily one of the other guys was like, well, I'm a mechanic, let me check. And so he got under there. It was a towel wrapped around the tie rod that came from the mud puddle.
Whoa. The other thing about mud puddles is, and you probably know this, and it's important to know on the road when we have big rainstorms and you go through deep water, but particularly off-road as well, when you go through water and sometimes mud, but especially water, you really need to be prepared that your brakes might not work as well at first. And what I've learned to do is to go through the water and then test the brakes, because sometimes after a water event, as we call it, then you have a loss of brakes for a little period of time.
Yeah. So you're pretty wrapped up in the automotive world. Do you have any side hobbies or things that you do at home in your free time?
I don't have much free time. I am 74 years old, and I never in a million years thought that I would still be working full time. I'm right now, I just came back from Saudi Arabia in January 6th, I think I got home. I was there for 9 days, and I just went to Palm Springs and an off-road event called King of the Hammers, and tested a vehicle in Palm Springs. Following that King of the Hammers is held near where the Rebel Rally ends in Johnson Valley. But I'm right now, I turned down a trip to China in February because my daughter she had some surgery and I wanted to be here. And now I'm trying to go to China, which would be my 3rd trip there, and do some driving training for female journalists. And I'm also I've thrown my hat into the ring to cover a rally in Saudi Arabia that's called the Rally Jamil. Jamil is the principal of a dealership, a large series a collection of dealers in Saudi Arabia. And a lot of, I don't know if they're exclusively Toyota, but they are, I know they have Toyota vehicles. So if I cover that rally, which is all women, people think women don't drive in Saudi Arabia. They have been for, I don't know, the last 7 years maybe. And if I do cover that rally, I've asked a male colleague to go with me, which I don't always do, but in this case, I would like to be in a vehicle with a man. Also, driving from Jordan, 2 spots through 2 sites in Jordan, Petra, and then through 6 stops in Saudi Arabia. So, and then I have some car programs in testing the Ford Expedition, one of them, and I think the EV9 in May. But
Okay.
I don't do as much automotive travel testing as I used to. I do still get a new vehicle every week at my home, which is crazy. But yeah, so I'm still full time and trying to figure out how to slowly bring this part of my career to a close and probably do more goodwill and mission work, which I've done both in the world, and especially with my 4-wheel drive skills, I feel like that's been helpful for me to feel safe and comfortable doing those things. And also because I've seen so much poverty. So I really like to do that.
Yeah. So you mentioned the expedition. Are you driving the 2025 expedition?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So Tim and I are breaking into the journalism. We've been considered dealers in the past because we are at a dealership, and Ford doesn't like the dealers to know everything. They don't like us to learn the information beforehand because that's where they typically have their leaks come from, is from those dealers. So we've actually been able to go to Chicago Auto Show, SEMA, places like that as media. And so now they've started to kind of consider us as journalists. And we actually got to go to the 2025 embargoed event.
Oh, nice. In Detroit?
Yes.
I was at that too. Cool.
Okay. Yeah, so we were lucky. They invited us out to that, and I was so excited. And seeing that expedition got me excited. Um, it it's gorgeous. I love it. I want one.
It is really gorgeous. And with 2 children, to be
It's
able to
more
put,
than I need.
yeah, I mean, you could certainly get a much smaller vehicle, but it's got, I don't know what you guys do for your pastimes, but it's got great towing. It's very safe. The size,
Mhm.
you always have people say, "Oh, what's the best vehicle?" And what's your top vehicle that you would take on an expedition? And there's so many considerations. And I tell that to people all the time. Get the biggest vehicle you can afford for the safety cage around you, but you don't need one that's too big. And maybe who knows what's going to happen in our world right now with fuel prices. So fuel economy is important. Safety is
Yes.
really important.
Yeah.
And I'm always saying to people, get the newest vehicle you can buy, newest and biggest, because of the safety technology, which gets upgraded in each generation, sometimes mid-cycle. So yeah, the drive event for the one that I'm going to, and there'll probably be more than one, is in Louisville, Kentucky at the assembly plant. So you should throw your hat into the ring for that.
I would love to. Have you driven a Maverick?
I have.
Okay, that's my favorite. Maverick is my favorite. We've actually made our name with Maverick. We're hoping, like, we weren't invited to their drive event for Maverick and Bronco Sport, so we're actually getting some in here in the next month or so, and so we're gonna take them out and do our own here in Kansas.
Nice, nice. That's so cool. This might be down the road, or maybe you do a version of this, but many dealerships over time have, as you know, put on a customer event, a customer drive. And if you know, that might be a really fun thing to do as you develop more experience with, you know, adventure driving or whatever. But that sounds really cool. I love the Maverick. Yeah, I think I have driven every single car in the United States up to, you know, most of my everyday driving used to be up to 100,000. Now trucks are more than 100,000, but I've certainly driven some couple of Lamborghinis and Lotus and Bentleys and things that are higher priced range. But I am on some juries, and we test for the best new car and truck and SUV. And I'm on the Women's World Car Jury, as I said, with 88 women from around the world, which makes me really excited. And we just voted the Hyundai Santa Fe the top vehicle for worldwide. And that's a lot, because there are a lot of vehicles that we don't get in this market that were thrown in. But overall, that was the vehicle that got the most votes. And there was a Mini Cooper that was in the running, or was a runner-up. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get to that? How did you get on the board for the women's
The juries.
the jury?
Yeah, back in the mid to late 90s, I had started, like I said, in 1988. I had started to make a name for myself by pushing myself to do extreme events. One of those was called Camel Trophy, and put me in the jungle of Central America with spiders, snakes, scorpions, oh my, and then Borneo, and then Mongolia. And I was on teams, but I was also writing multiple stories for sometimes big outlets, and my name got known. And the automotive business, at the end of the day, the automotive journalism business is sort of small community. I think they're probably, I don't know today if we're 100 journalists that are full-time on the road most of the time in that collegial group. And someone who was running the North American Car and Truck of the Year jury asked me to be on that. And you have to have the skill to test vehicles you like, and vehicles like, you know, cars of every size, trucks of every size. And also the intent of that is, and then I was asked onto the Women's World Car Jury probably 4 years ago. And again, my name got out, someone probably recommended me. But it's important to remember that the idea in finding the best vehicle is, hang on, a sneeze. I think I lost part of my screen when I sneezed. My computer took over and put something there. I don't know if you're still seeing me. Oh my gosh.
I can see you.
News thing. There we go. Did I lose you?
You're okay.
Yeah. My computer can be so finicky. Okay, so what's important with voting for the best new car, and again, when people say to me, what's the best vehicle? In the jury voting, it's not just my favorite. It's what is the best vehicle in a number of categories. And also, we really work hard in the North American Car and Truck of the Year jury to look at the mass market. You're always going to have an amazing new Porsche 911, especially the Dakar version. That is going to have fanfare, but is that the best vehicle? It has a lot of talent, and is that a vehicle that's moving the mass market forward with technology, with safety? That's the kind of thing, again, we brought up the Ford Expedition and the Maverick, the other end of the spectrum. And in any vehicle that I'm going to vote for, I'm going to check the box. Does it have an excellent collection of safety and technology? And there's some manufacturers, more and more manufacturers are including a lot of the safety technology that used to be optional. They're including it in standard bundles, as I'm sure you see. And likewise, the technology. But I know you've had, I don't know if you've had Jill Simonello on. I think she gave you my name. Jill can be, she really takes automakers to task if they don't have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and some other technologies sort of built in. So those are the things. And Jill especially is shorter than I am. I'm 5'2". I think Jill is 4'11" or 5 feet, but she will often write up the fact that she cannot get situated in the seat and have the steering wheel far enough back so that if the airbags go off, she's still safe, and hit the pedals. And so the ergonomics of a vehicle, I can drive a really cool vehicle like the Dodge Viper. The only time I've ever run off a racetrack testing something was in the Dodge Viper. And the seat track would not allow me to get my body forward far enough to put the clutch all the way in. And I was in a corner and I was having a difficult time downshifting, approaching the corner, and landed up in a little bit of a skid. It was the ergonomics of the vehicle. It's not that I couldn't run off a track. I've been fortunate that I haven't. But so there are all those considerations. And it used to be when I started testing vehicles in 1988, oh my goodness, there was no seat track in the big trucks. I would jump in and I'd be like, oh gosh, I can't see over the hood. What am I doing? Where are my wheels? Where's the corners of the vehicle when I'm going through tight, right? Or I want to park. And today, I'm really excited to say, even though I've only been in the business for 37 years, I know that my feedback to manufacturers and the car buyers, and also my testing for racing, which I'd like to speak about for a sec, has really helped change the market. And when on my very first off-road race, which was with Rod Hall and the Baja 1000, our portion of the race was 500 miles. We were testing high-intensity discharge lights, which were not on the market. And we were testing night vision, and which was not on the market. And there have been times in my career, not very many these days, for I think various reasons. People are more used to off-road racing, but people used to say, "What are you doing? Tearing up the backcountry, racing through deserts. What does that mean? What's important about that? Or that's not cool for the environment." And what I've always tried to say to people is, it's like the Indy 500, where the advertisements and sponsors have said, our tires, our lubricants, our wheels, this is what we're testing for. They stood up for the Indy 500. Like you see, and so likewise with off-road racing, we're the tires, the wheels, the suspension systems, the brakes, the lubricants. I'm doing something right now with Castrol, who's really making a huge effort to honor women as part of International Women's Day, Women's Month. I think their campaign is going to be a year. And I sent you a video that they made from an auto body shop, probably in Uzbekistan. It's going to run in Ukraine and a number of countries in that region. And what was so cool was the the campaign was saying, Castrol is a lubricant. It's a racing fuel. But what's important is men go into auto body shops and garages, and women do too, but a lot of the women sometimes can be in posters on the wall, and those posters don't always portray women as racers or automotive enthusiasts or women who help change the world. And the Castrol campaign taught me that there are some women, I always knew this, but some women that are postered in their campaign help develop lane lines on the road, or wireless, the foundation, Hedy Lamarr, the foundation for Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cell phones. And it's my friend Denise McCluggage, who is a racer. So it's fascinating to see the breadth and the scope of what automotive brings to the world. And now someone like Castrol saying, we want people who go into auto body shops to have a positive attitude, or have a different attitude about women than they might have. They might now see that there's women on the wall who've done really cool things in automotive.
Yeah. Did you see the Ford commercial for Women's Day last year?
Was it?
The men's vehicle, men's only vehicle. And at first I'm like, what are they doing? Like, what are they going for here? That's upsetting. Like, men only. And then come to find out, they're like, yeah, we took off everything that women have had a part in making. Windshield wipers, all the convenience features, like the safety features, seat belts. Like,
Yeah.
These are items on the vehicle that women came up with, that women created, and we are removing them for a men's only vehicle. And it's like, wow, that is a lot that women have contributed to the vehicles that everyone wants. Like, all these features that everyone wants, women are the ones that were behind it.
Well, thank you for pointing that out, because I don't remember seeing it. I was actually out of the country a little bit in March last year in China, and I've got to look that up. Mike Levine is a very close friend of mine from Ford, who you probably met in Detroit, and I'll make sure that I get that from Mike. But, looking at Bertha Benz, who drove her husband's Mercedes, is considered one of the first woman who actually did a significant drive with her two children. There are just so many women that have made history that don't always get put forward. I don't always like to take the feminist approach, because, and I have been on so many teams, so many expedition drives, so many teams where I was the only woman racing across Africa. In 2000, I was on a team with 10 guys and me. We had 2 vehicles. I have been treated so well in automotive. I have, almost without exception, I have not found sexism. There's been a bit, people are people. And in any industry, you're going to find men and women who are competitive with each other. But automotive has been a place where mostly women support each other really well, and men have really supported me. And that's one of the reasons I've stayed in it for so long. It's been such a great ride.
Yeah. I think in every community you can find those people that are just downright rude and awful. But then you have the good people. There's always the good people in a community. You're going to have both. So I agree with that, it's not really about men versus women. It's who are you with? Who are you communicating with? Is it this one person, or is it the entire community?
Yeah.
Because you can't judge a book by one person or by one character.
Yeah. Good point.
So, who or what inspires you?
It's funny. My friend Denise McCluggage, of course, who is part of the campaign for Castrol. I wasn't sure I was going to do that, but I saw a picture of her. She was one of the most famous female racers who started off as a journalist and did a car gig and became a racer. And I spent her last years with her giving driving training to me. That was exceptional tips and skills. And then when she was coming to the end of her life, I actually went out and spent some time with her in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And just always, she was such a great storyteller. But the other thought that came to mind is Amelia Earhart. And I'm also, you asked me about side hobbies or ventures. I don't have much time really to have hobbies. My family, my daughter, my granddaughter, and my grandson, who's at University of Tennessee, but my granddaughter is 11 and she's a car girl. She's been to 2 auto shows with me. She's only 11 now, and I've made her write a little piece for my piece on the Rebelle Rally one time, and I made her write a piece about the Houston Auto Show, her 5 favorite vehicles, and that was incorporated into my story for Girls Guide to Cars. So back to, I decided I wanted to learn piloting, and it was crazy to add it to my list with such a busy life, but there's an airport 5 minutes from my door. I decided what I wanted to keep learning, and I thought about getting my CDL big truck license and just to do it. And then I realized that I'd spent it so many years flying. I'm a 3 million mile traveler, and I've spent so many years flying, and I've had really intense bad flights, and I've had the most wonderful sunrise, sunset views, flying over the Alps or flying to Alaska. I spend a lot of time in Alaska. I even lived there for a little bit. I helped a friend who was doing the Iditarod, which is on now. And I did a lot of flight training in Alaska also, which is very different from flight training here. So I decided, after really being frightened out of my mind on some bad flights where lightning was both sides of the airplane and we were all over the sky, I thought, if I learn piloting, would it help? And it has. And I haven't flown left seat recently. I'm a safety pilot for a man who's a good friend at my airport, but I love flying. I'm a member of the Amelia Earhart 99s, and just like I admire women in automotive, I really admire women who have taken roles in like Amelia Earhart and flew across the ocean and spearheaded what has encouraged so many other women. And I don't know if you met Dawn McKenzie from Ford. Should have her on your show. She's a balloon pilot. She works at Ford. Yeah, she works at Ford and helps out with many aspects of PR and introduction of vehicles.
Mhm.
She's a balloon pilot. How cool is that? So
Yep, I met her at the Maverick embargoed event.
So there's so many wonderful men in the world that have helped me and that are my colleagues and friends and family. But really what we're talking about is women and how they've changed the automotive world, and how many women are in it, have been in it all along that we didn't know, but have really influenced it, and how many women are changing it today. And I look at you and at the dealership end of it, and I admire that you're moving forward and expanding that, and not just learning how to sell vehicles or a little bit about them, but doing more with them. So, and maybe rebel sometime. That's really cool.
Yes, that's a goal. I have a goal there. So, yeah. Well, it has been wonderful talking to you.
All right. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another week of All Women Driven. Join us in 2 weeks for another episode where we are looking into the past to drive women forward in the future. Have a wonderful day, guys.